Hey, it's Emily again from EmbellishAngelsDesigns.com, and now we've got our layout here, and we have our background papers and we have our 3 photos. And the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is to mat and frame your photos. So you kind of have 3 options when it comes to adding some sort of added element to your photos. Option number 1 is simply to keep your photos the way they are with no frame and no mat, and then eventually towards the end of the process add drop shadows to give them a little more lifelike appearance with some depth. Option number 2 is to use a frame, and in a lot of the digital kits that you can purchase, there's a lot of really cool looking frames. Some are even scanned in from actual frames, 3D frames that are very lifelike looking. And then option number 3 would be to put a mat, which is basically putting a colored frame around the back. Lots of people like to mat their photos in white, and it gives that kind of finished photo look. So for this tutorial, I'm going to mat these 2 smaller photos, and I'm going to add a frame to the larger one, and that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my Holly picture layer because I want my frame that I opened to come in right on top. So I'm going to go, and my frame is from the Sprout collection, SP Sprout. So I'm just going to navigate to where that is on my computer. I'd like to think I have somewhat of an organizational system for my digital scrapbooking things, but I have a lot of stuff. So here's the frame that I'm looking at, and this frame is a PNG file, and that stands for Portable Network Graphic, and basically it just means it has transparency, which means the inside of the frame is transparent. So whatever layer you put underneath it is going to show through. So any portable network graphic has transparency, so some part of it you're going to be able to see through or underneath like that. So the frame opens in its own file, and we're going to have to go ahead and move it. So we're going to click and drag, and you see that it comes in, it's a little small for the picture we've got going. So we're going to size it out just a little bit, but you notice we don't want to make it too big, so then you see some of our picture in between there. And typically, I remember when I told you before, when you resize something, you don't want to resize using just the top or side or bottom handles because you'll get distortion. Usually with frames you can get away with it. So we're going to go ahead and, you don't see much of the rest of Holly's picture, but we're going to go ahead and extend this down just a little bit so we can kind of see how much of the picture of Holly we want to cover with the frame. And then I'm going to move it up just a little bit so we're not cutting off too much of her head there. Might move it over, and you'll notice you can move it 2 ways. You can actually click and move things around, but you'll notice sometimes they get kind of jumpy and they move more than you would like. That's when you want to use your arrow keys. So on your keyboard you use your arrow and it nudges it. So it moves it just incrementally up and down, left and right, based on where you have it. So I'm actually going to highlight both of these layers, and I'm going to make just a little bit smaller and move it over just a little bit to the right here, or to the left. Just again for design purposes, I was getting a little too close to my top edge and a little close to my right edge. So there I've added a gorgeous kind of gilded frame to my picture of Holly, which really makes that stand out as a focal point. So, and then the next 2, I'm going to add a mat. And in the paper scrapbooking world, adding a mat to a photo is you put the photo down on usually a solid colored piece of paper, and then you cut a frame around the paper that extends beyond the picture so you can see it. And it's actually kind of a time-consuming process in the paper world, but in the digital world, it's so easy. So I'm going to start with our trio picture. So I'm going to select that layer, because anytime you have a layer selected, that's the layer the action is going to happen on. So whatever you do next, that's the layer it's going to happen on. So we want to make sure that we're on our trio layer. And in Photoshop, to add a mat, it's not called a mat. Wouldn't that be great? Add a mat. Nope. It's called a stroke. So we're going to go to Edit. So again, I'm on my layer that I want to put a mat. We're going to go to Edit, Stroke. And basically what a stroke does is it's going to put a frame on the inside, center, or outside of a picture or any element, and it's going to do it a certain amount of pixels beyond the picture. And 5 pixels is very, very, very small amount. I kind of go up in increments by about 10, 15, 20. My mats are usually 18 to 20 pixels. So I'm going to choose 20 pixels, and then I'm going to choose color. And when you choose that, your color picker box comes up. I'm going to select, it's kind of this cream color from the frame, and you can see it there. I'm going to click OK. You want to choose center. You don't have to touch any of this. Click OK. And then you can see we've added a really nice stroke or matte to that picture. Again, it just makes it pop a little more. So I'm going to show you how to do that one more time. So now we're going to go to our table picture. Remember, select the layer you want to work with. We're going to go to Edit, Stroke, 20 pixels, and whatever you use last is still there. So click OK, and then you've got the stroke on that one as well. So we've added a really nice frame to Miss Holly here, and we've added a stroke or a matte to each of these photos. I'm just moving these around a little bit here, trying to decide where I want them. So that's, again, just a really basic thing you can do. Add frames and mats to your photo. So check out the next tutorials, and we're going to talk a little bit about adding some text and embellishments.